Hey everyone, it's Dr. Angela. Super excited to be with you today. I have had lots and lots of questions in Sugar and Flour Busters Society and just in general, like, what am I supposed to eat? That is just a huge question. So many people want to know, how do you go about eating properly if you want to lose weight and get healthy? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you my top 7 tips for how to eat properly if you want to lose weight and get healthy. And if you are watching this live or if you are watching the replay, just pop a little note in and say hi to me so I know you're there. That would be awesome. Thank you. Okay, so what are my top 7 tips for how to lose weight and get healthy? Tip number 1. What you want to do is you want to stop thinking about dieting, okay? So many people have this mentality where they're either eating whatever they want or they're on a diet. And so it's sort of like this binge diet mentality. And so what we want to do, if you want to really get this problem under control long term, is you want to stop that thinking. Just stop that thinking. Just stop that thinking, right? And you want to stop dieting and you want to start focusing on nourishing your body. You have got a beautiful, gorgeous, amazing chemical factory here. Okay. This is an amazing chemical factory. And you want to be giving it all the nourishment that it needs in order to stay healthy. And eating whatever you want and then dieting it away later is not healthy for your body and it's not going to serve you long term. Okay. So that's tip number 1, is to stop the dieting and start focusing on nourishing your body. Okay. So tip number 2, super important, is to avoid processed foods and sugar sweetened beverages. Why would I say that? Because there is nothing nourishing about most, I can't say all, but most processed foods. So if you are regularly and routinely running through the McDonald's drive-thru or the Taco Bell drive-thru or going to Subway or just basically, or drinking sodas or going to Starbucks and getting those sugary lattes and stuff like that, that is not nourishing your body. That is giving your brain a little sugar high. That is giving your brain a little sugar high and giving you some energy. I'll grant you, you do get some energy, but those foods are not the least bit healthy. You want to start thinking about that stuff as toxic to your body, okay? In the same way that you think about cigarettes as being toxic to your body, I want you to begin to think about processed, pre-made food as toxic to your body, okay? So that's tip number 2, okay? And I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure I get everything. Okay, tip number 3, and this might be the most important thing you ever hear from anybody ever when it comes to food. You ready? I hope you got a pen and paper and you're writing all this down. You can watch it later too. Okay. Tip number 3, plan your meals in advance. That's right. I said plan your meals in advance. So either the night before or the morning of, you write down on a piece of paper or in your phone everything that you're going to eat for the day. Okay. What are you going to have for breakfast? What are you going to have for lunch? What are you going to have for dinner? Write it all out ahead of time. Now, why do I say this is the most important thing? Because too many of us are making decisions about eating on the run. We aren't thinking about making decisions about eating. We just grab something, right? When you are planning your meals, you're using the prefrontal cortex of your brain. This is the smart part of your brain. This is the adult part of your brain. This is the part of your brain that is in touch with your goals. When you make decisions from this part of your brain, you're going to make the right kinds of decisions. As your day goes on, you're going to get tired. You're going to feel bored. You're going to have just periods of time where you're like, I just want to have a snack. Well, that's not this part of your brain making that decision. That's a lower part of your brain that just wants some pleasure in the moment. Okay. So we have these different parts of our brains that are sort of always vying for our attention. And I want you to really understand the best part of your brain to plan your meals from is this part of your brain, not the toddler brain, the primal brain, the brain that just sees stuff and wants to eat it. Okay. So that might be the absolute most important tip I could ever give you, is to plan your meals in advance. Okay. Hey, somebody's on here. It just says Facebook user, but good morning. Good to see you, whoever you are. Awesome. So tip number 4, you ready for that one? Again, I'm just popping up my notes. Okay. Tip number 4, what do you plan when you're planning your meals if you want to be nourishing your body properly? Well, your body needs protein. Your body needs protein to use for building blocks, for muscle and bone tissue and all of that. It needs protein to make enzymes out of. It needs protein. So you want to be eating protein with every meal. So 3 times a day, you want to eat some protein. Okay. Tip number 5 is you want to be eating vegetables. And I try to get 20 ounces of vegetables in each day. And I actually weigh my vegetables just because I want to make sure that I'm getting enough. Okay. Now, what do I mean by vegetables? I don't mean potatoes, and I don't mean French fries, and I don't mean those kinds of vegetables. I mean the leafy greens. I mean mushrooms, onions, bell peppers. Tomatoes are technically a fruit, but you could use that as a vegetable. They've got lots of nourishing stuff in them. What else? Carrots, celery, eggplant, zucchini, yellow squash, all kinds of vegetables out there. Okay? Lots of vegetables. So you want to be eating your vegetables. I just had for lunch some Brussels sprouts and onions that I had sauteed the other night, and I had some leftovers. So that was delicious, right? So you really want to learn how to chop and saute vegetables and do a really good job getting your vegetables in. I roast vegetables. I do all kinds of things with vegetables. So that is how you're going to nourish your body with vegetables. What is tip number 6? Be careful with carbohydrates. Okay, so here's what happens with carbohydrates. They get digested. And they get digested in your bloodstream, and they get turned into glucose molecules. And guess what your body does with them? It turns them into triglyceride fat. So all of the fat that is stored in your fat cells is actually made from blood sugar. It's not made from fat. Is that interesting? Does that blow your mind? Okay. Now, my private patients and the people in my online program, Journey Beyond Weight Loss, know exactly how all this happens because we go into great detail in the biochemistry of it. But I want you to understand that carbohydrates, some carbohydrates are good for you, but we are eating way too many carbohydrates in this country. And not to mention your Hair and Sugar and Flour Buster Society, because you recognize that sugar and flour products are actually addictive drugs, and you're working at getting off of them. So I just want you to understand, I would not have very many carbohydrates first thing in the morning. Like I would avoid oatmeal. I would avoid muffins. I would avoid bagels. I would avoid juices. I would avoid all that stuff that most people have, like fruit smoothies with tons of fruit in them. I would avoid all of that. And I would have protein and fat for breakfast. And then during the rest of the day, I would have small amounts of fruits or some starchy carbs like beans or sweet potatoes, or I would be careful even with rice, just because your blood sugar can go up pretty high from that too. So that is the carb piece of it, which is super, super important. Okay. What is the last thing? Oh, the last thing is fats, right? So we've talked about there's 3 macronutrients, there's proteins, carbs, and fats. So we need to talk about fat. So most people are scared to death of fat. I want you to be scared to death of carbs. I don't want you to be scared to death of carbs. I just want you to be careful with carbs. Okay. You don't need to be scared to death of fat, because fat does not turn into fat in your body. That's not the way the body works. The body takes fat and turns it into energy. It uses it to make cell membranes. It uses it to absorb fat soluble vitamins, like super, super important fat. Okay. So you can eat too much fat pretty quickly though. I generally measure my fat. So for example, I measure out an ounce of nuts at a time. If I'm going to have nuts, I measure it. Okay. I don't just grab a bunch of nuts. Okay. So just want you to recognize that it is important to be eating some good healthy fats. I haven't had my avocado yet, but I'm going to be having some avocado for my lunch. So those are really good healthy fats for you as well. They've got lots of fiber in them. You start eating like this, your body is going to be well nourished. You're going to be feeling great. You're going to like drop fat like crazy. It's an amazing thing that happens when you start nourishing your body with good, wholesome food. It takes a little time and effort though, right? It just takes time and effort to do that. But the time that you get back in terms of your energy and your health is so worth it. So worth it. Okay. So I am looking to see if there are any questions. I just gave you a whole bunch of hints, so I will review them. And then if you have any questions, type them in, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Facebook. I'm broadcasting to both places. So type in any questions. Again, what are the 7 keys to healthy nutrition? First thing is ditch that whole diet mentality. Just ditch it. Stop with the I'm going to eat whatever I want and I'm going to diet later. Just stop all of that and just learn how to eat normal food and stop dieting. Think about nourishing your body. Okay. Tip number 2 was to recognize the toxic, addictive nature of processed foods and beverages. So you're going to want to avoid fast foods. You're going to want to avoid sugary stuff. You're going to want to avoid sodas and energy drinks and all of that. Not because you're on a diet and you're trying to deprive yourself, but because you realize they're actually an addictive drug and they're really toxic to your body. Start thinking about this stuff in the same way you think about cigarettes, okay? They are killing us more so than cigarettes. As a matter of fact, it takes decades for somebody who's a smoker to develop lung cancer. It only takes about 20 years for a little kid who starts eating sugar when they are less than 1 to become diabetic. So we're talking serious stuff here, okay? Tip number 3, I got to go back to my notes again. Okay. Oh, plan your meals in advance. That was the most important tip, is to plan ahead so that you're using this part of your brain, not your rambunctious toddler brain who just has urges and wants to eat whatever they want, right? So use the forward-thinking executive part of your brain to make your food decisions, which means plan your meals in advance, write it all down so that you can refer to it during the day. That makes it a lot easier, right? Tip number 4, make sure you're eating protein with every meal. Tip number 5, eat lots of vegetables. And again, I shoot for about 20 ounces a day. Tip number 6 was to be super careful with carbohydrates because they actually do get turned into fat. Okay. It's not what you've been taught. I know, most of you. So, and then tip number 8 is to don't be afraid of eating fat, but eat good, healthy fats like nuts, avocados, olive oil, olives, those kinds of things. And be sure that you measure the amounts because fat calories do add up quickly. Okay. So that's what I got for you today. Just to help you all out, I'm going to post 2 things in the comments. The first thing I'm going to post is a replay of a webinar that I did, not this last weekend, but the weekend before. And that's going to give you some really good insight into what it actually takes to lose weight and keep it off. And then I'm also going to post the 5-day sugar detox menu. We've got a lot of new people in our group now, and they haven't seen it. So I'm going to post the 5-day sugar detox menu for you as well so that you can get to work on that. That is just a starting point just to get you off the carbs and the sugar. Okay. So get you through the withdrawal. Okay. I do not see any questions or comments. Super glad that you're all popped in. And those of you who watch this later, I hope you've gotten some value. And I will see you again next time I do a Facebook Live. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.